gentlemen, welcome to the Retro Racing Managers League. The Grand Prix 2 World Championship of 1990 is set to conclude as we go to Adelaide in Australia as the championships will conclude. Hello, Jake Sanson here with you once again, and it is time, first of all, for our first of our three title showdowns, and this, of course, is the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, the pre-qualifying race, and, of course, the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, which is won by the driver who is the most successful in the pre-qualifying sessions. As always, the first three teams across the finish line will progress through to the Grand Prix, but there is also the Go Bobbit at UK Cup itself to decide, and there are two drivers in the hunt for that title. Pierluigi Martini of Italy for the Minardi team, who has 100 points going into this race, and Ukyo Katayama of Japan for the Coloni squad, who has 92. And I can tell you that both drivers have qualified well on the streets of Adelaide, so this is set to be an absolutely thrilling battle in the title showdown. It's an all-Lego Acela front row with Mark Blundell and Alessandro Zanardi cleaning up on the streets of Adelaide. Half a second between the two. Blundell very motivated to get into that Benetton next year. Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola lines up in third on the starting grid with Martin Brundle for the Minardi team in P4. Then it's Ukyo Katayama and JJ Leto who line up together. So Ukyo Katayama is ahead of Pierluigi Martini, but the Italian is right there in 7th place. Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche is in 8th on the starting grid. And then it's Damon Hill and Martin Donnelly, Dallara versus Eurobrun. Eddie Irvine in the Real and Aguri Suzuki in the second Lola. Then it's Alan McNish alongside Andrea Chiesa, who replaces Bertrand Gachot, who replaces Eric Bernard, I should say, at the team Monteverdi, after Bernard was banned from racing this time after the accident caused between him and the Coloni of Bertrand Gachot. Alan McNish is alongside him. Christian Fittipaldi and Johnny Herbert are on row 8. Then Paolo Barilla and Paul Warwick with Volker Weidler and Roberto Guerrero. And then it's Roland Ratzenberger who lines up alongside Mike Thackwell, who's been drafted in last minute to the Coloni team. Michael Andretti and Gabriele Tarquini. And then it's Joe Winkelhock and Juan Fangio II. So this should be an absolutely thrilling race. Now, to win the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, Katayama must finish third or higher and hope that Pierluigi Martini doesn't score. So it's going to be a fascinating 40-lap encounter. And of course, as always, the first three teams past the finish line will go on to the starting line for the Australian Grand Prix. Here we go in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup pre-qualifier. And it's a great start from the Acelas out front. A perfect getaway for Blundell. Katayama's got a good start. He's up into third position already. So a terrific start from the Japanese. He knows exactly what he wants to get out of this race as the field makes its way down to the first corner and there's damage. Cars with problems already. I think somebody's missing a rear wing. So it's one of the Reals. I think that's Volker Weidler. So Volker Weidler, I think, has misplaced his rear wing after a bit of a problem into the first couple of corners of the race. So Weidler is down the order. Johnny Herbert's had a terrible start. He's all the way down the field as well, as you can see, as he duels there with Joe Winkelhock. We're not used to seeing Johnny Herbert that low down the order. But Mark Blundell has bit the bullet and gone into the lead, with Giacomelli second, Katayama third, Zanardi's fourth, and Martini has got past his teammate Brundle to move into 5th place. For the moment, it's still Martini who has the advantage in the points tally. Damon Hill making his bid on Eddie Irvine in the Real as they go down the straight up towards the hairpin of the first time, and that's Brundle passing Martini. That's not good news for the squad. Now surely Brundle would assist Martini, but then of course they may have a strategy in place, so Brundle may be their best bet to get the Grand Prix. There's a good chance that Brundle may be on a slightly lighter fuel load. They obviously have mandatory pit stops in this race, just one pit stop. But Mark Blundell completes the race. Oh, and Suzuki's out of the race already. What's happened to Aguri Suzuki? I think he's stalled it at the edge of the... Oh, and it looks as though Paolo Barilla's gone with him. So I think the two of them may have tangled with each other at the hairpin. So both Aguri Suzuki and Paolo Barilla are out of the Australian Grand Prix pre-qualifying. So with Suzuki and Barilla, I should say, out of the race, that's Katayama into 2nd place. So Katayama's made his way through. So it's a great start, and Volker Weidler has made his way into the pits after his damaged car on the opening lap. So Katayama is doing everything he possibly can to win this race, and of course win in the pre-qualifying. So Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche runs behind Eddie Irvine in the Real. Under the Foster's Bridge and up towards the Ketterville Terrace and onto the back straight. Not a bad move from the Porsche team to put the outgoing Williams driver for this season, Thierry Boutsen, into the car. He was no longer able to win the World Championship, so he's on loan to the Porsche team for the last 2 races of the season. He did a good job at Japan last time, got the car into the Grand Prix, and the team scored points, if you remember, last time out in Suzuka. So Porsche very much indebted to Williams for allowing it to happen, and of course the teams will unite next year. So there's a very strong chance that Porsche will continue to increase their stock, and the points in the Constructors' Championship will help with that. Martin Brundle spinning in front of Martini. Oh dear, Martin Brundle overcooks it in the first chicane and has spun the car. There he is. So Martin Brundle spinning in front of his teammate, Pierluigi Martini. Martini had to take avoiding action, and so Leto has gone through. But Brundle is now spin-turning the car back again. Oh, I think he's actually stalled the car trying to get going. So Martin Brundle is out of the Australian Grand Prix. Well, that is a very big problem for him. So it's all down to the title contender now, Pierluigi Martini, as Johnny Herbert locks up. Having a very difficult race with the car down at the back end of the field. He's going to be staying with the team, of course, in 1991. None of the big teams wanted to go for him, from the look of things. A lot of overtaking moves. Oh, that's Tarquini. Tarquini with the gearbox problem. And you can see that the team at AGS decided to put their Holden livery into operation this weekend to celebrate the fact that the team will be the Holden Works outfit next season. But here in Australia, they've not had the success they were hoping for. And that is Gabriele Tarquini's final start for the AGS team before he becomes their test driver next year to move over in place of Wayne Gardner, the motorcycling world champion, and David Brabham, who will join the team as a very patriotic Australian in a Grand Prix opportunity. Oh, that's Winkelhock. And Winkelhock has got damage to the car, look. So the other Zach Speed is already out of the race for Paolo Barilla, but Winkelhock has picked up damage somewhere as well. Oh, and that's Fangio out. Fangio's had a crash. So what's happened there to Fangio? Let's have a look. He's done exactly the same thing. Oh, he did the same thing as Brundle. He just overshot in the chicane, and that chicane really does catch drivers out. So I'm afraid Fangio getting it all wrong at the opening corner, and the Argentine is out of the race. And again, that's the last time you'll see him in a Grand Prix for a while, because he will not be on the starting grid in 1991. So Volker Weidler has returned to the fray. Blundell is leading, Katayama in second, and there he is in the background. You can see him there in second place as Christian Fittipaldi makes his bid on Andrea Chiesa, another driver who's going to be on the sidelines next year, but he does get to start a Grand Prix this time as Eric Bernard has been banned from racing this weekend. That's Michael Andretti going for his teammate Roland Ratzenberger, and Pierluigi Martini running in 6th position behind JJ Leto. He's got a reasonable fuel run, but the Minardi is actually struggling at the moment in terms of its raw pace. It's still there in the top 6 ahead of Irvine, Hill and Boutsen. But the Minardi does seem to be struggling in the latter stages of this season. So that is why Martini's massive points advantage has been dashed a little. But Katayama is looking at getting 12 points for being in 2nd position. Martini is currently 6th. That will give him 5 points, and that will still, despite the high score for Katayama, give Pierluigi Martini the Go Bobbit at UK Cup if it stays like this. But he will only get it by 1 point. And that's Blundell, still dicing his way past the back marker there. That's Boutsen on the inside of Damon Hill. So Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian, in the works Porsche for this final race of the season, as well as for in Suzuka last time out. And Winkelhock spins behind Blundell. A big mistake there for Joe Winkelhock. How did he do that? Because that looked a little bit hairy. We ride on board with him as he comes through. Oh dear, he just missed it. He just mistimed his position on the circuit and ended up overshooting at the final corner. So Joe Winkelhock, a big mistake for the German. And that is not what you like to see. So there's Alessandro Zanardi in the 2nd of the 2 Lego Acellas, with Blundell leading the way, of course. So Blundell, Katayama, Giacomelli, Zanardi, Leto and Martini is the top 6 from Irvine, Hill, Boutsen and Donnelly. So Winkelhock's car is still parked at the final corner. He's trying to get the car going again. He's damaged the car trying to traverse through the gravel trap. But that is a very deep gravel track to get the car stuck out on. So will he actually be able to get that car out? That's the problem. And it's fair to say that Zach Speed's rather difficult season with Mike Pittman as team boss is coming to an end. And Mike Pittman will hand the reins of that squad over to Rick Hammercat, who will become the team's principal for 1991. Now, Joe Winkelhock is reversing onto the circuit. Surely he can't go back into the pits from here. No, he's got to complete an entire lap of the circuit before he comes back into the pits. And lo and behold, Mark Blundell has got Joe Winkelhock to lap all over again. He's already done it once. So Winkelhock through the first chicane. And Blundell just a little bit cautious as he goes for the move on the Zach Speed there. That's Volker Weidler, the German driver for the Real team, which is folding at the end of this race. Oh, and we've got a problem for Boutsen, I do believe. I want to look back and see what's happened, but Thierry Boutsen is down and out of it. He's got an electrical problem, that's why. So Boutsen, the Porsche team, were going very well indeed for him in the top 10, but Thierry Boutsen with an electrical issue has brought it into the pits. So with Paul Warwick down the order, that really does give Porsche a mountain to climb in terms of them getting back into contention for winning this Go Bobbit at UK Cup pre-qualifier. Ukko Katayama blasting down the back straight as he laps Joe Winkelhock in the Zach Speed. No problem at all for the Japanese driver today. He's doing everything he can to try and win this race and the Go Bobbit at UK Cup qualifier with it. Now, Ukko Katayama is currently second. That would give him 104 points total as Weidler locks up. But Martini in 6th place will give him 5. That means that Martini will end the year on 105 points to Ukko Katayama's 104. So Katayama really wants to catch and pass Mark Blundell, because if he can do that, then he's got a great chance of winning the Go Bobbit at UK Cup at the final part of the season. And of course, he'll be competing in it again next year, as will Pierluigi Martini, as the two drivers will quest for glory for the Honda Works outfit and the Minardi team, respectfully. So Giacomelli versus Sonardi is an Italian battle going well. 3rd and 4th place, JJ Leto in the Monteverdi in P5, and Martini in the Minardi is trying to hold off the attentions of Eddie Irvine in the Real and Damon Hill in the Dallara. Katayama's going well in 2nd place. And we're coming up towards the end of lap 8 of 40, so it's a reasonably long race, these Go Bobbit at UK Cup races. In fact, all of the races here at Adelaide are particularly long, and this race does have a bit of a reputation of killing cars at the end of a brutal season. Here's Michael Andretti being overtaken by Johnny Herbert. Herbert in the Dallara, waiting for his moment as Andrea Chiesa locks up into that hairpin at the bottom of the straight. And Herbert does indeed make his move on Michael Andretti. He managed to usurp a little bit more of the slipstream just by tucking in behind him and then hopping out of the line. So Andrea Chiesa, in his one and only outing for the Monteverdi team at this end of the season, doing a fair job, the Swiss, but it's going to be a while before we see him back in a Grand Prix car by the look of things. Here's Mark Blundell leading the way. JJ Leto having a problem there. That looked like he had a gear shift issue. I wonder if there's a problem with the electronic sensor in the gearbox, because that could be causing an issue with gear change. So JJ Leto in some difficulties there, and he is of course the man in front of Pierluigi Martini. So this is the first of 3 nail-biting battles over the course of the day, because we also have the Constructors' Championship to consider in the main Grand Prix itself, and that is a 2-horse race. A 2-horse race there between the likes of McLaren and Tyrrell. So this is going to be an absolutely sensational battle for the competitors as we get ourselves into championship mode. But Mark Blundell having a great run at the front in the Lego Osella. And if he can win his 2nd race of the year, that really would give him plenty of confidence to take with him to Benetton next year when he partners up with Martin Brundle in the Benetton Porsche squad. Now there is a slow-moving Reynard. That is Ratzenberger. He's got an oil leak developing, so that is a big problem for Ratzenberger. As Thackwell overtakes him, looks like Roberto Guerrero, the Chilean, has already done so. Oh, and goodness me, that's a big oil leak in the worst possible way as Roland Ratzenberger ends his season with Reynard. And it's been an interesting one for the Austrian. He's not always had the best of times, but certainly here at Adelaide, it comes to a very bitter end indeed, with the car spouting flames. He realises what's happened and he's parked the car as close to the marshal's post as possible. The marshals are already on the scene, And they've doused the flames. Ratzenberger's out of the car. And I'm afraid that is the end of the year for Roland Ratzenberger. Now, here's Mike Thackwell in the Coloni. He's currently 16th, chasing after Andretti and Guerrero. So Guerrero is in the all-new Holden colours that the team will wear next year. AGS, of course, handing the reins of the squad to the Holden factory outfit. Oh, and that's Paul Warwick. Good move there from the Porsche as Paul Warwick gets past Mike Thackwell. So good overtake from Paul Warwick, who will become the Williams team test driver next year as part of the Porsche operation. As Porsche becomes the factory power supplier for Williams in 1991. And these final few moments at the end of the season for Porsche are giving them plenty of things to think about heading into next year. Giacomelli 3rd, Zanardi 4th, Leto 5th and Martini in 6th as they continue around the streets of Adelaide in Australia. Fabulous race circuit this. Oh, and that's Weidler. Weidler saves the car from having a big off there. So Weidler survives where Winkelhock was unable to. So that was a bit of a nasty moment there for the German. But Ukyo Katayama continues on his way in 2nd position behind Mark Blundell in the Lego Osella. It's looking good for Katayama, but it's okay for Martini in P6 because he still leads the championship by 1 point if he hangs on to this, and he will win the Go Bobbitt UK Cup if he remains in P6 with Katayama in 2nd. If Katayama gets into the lead, then Martini's going to need to score at least 3 more points. So he's going to need to get himself up into 4th position, Pierluigi Martini, if Katayama wins the race. So it is going to be a tough battle in this Go Bobbitt UK Cup qualifier. And of course, as usual, all of the teams are trying to get into the Australian Grand Prix. And the only way to do that is to be one of the top 3 teams across the finish line. So clearly everybody's trying to go for that. Here's Mark Blundell. And Blundell doing a fine job in the lead in the Lego Osella. So down the straight he comes once again and into the hairpin. No problems at all for the Englishman as he runs out in front. Katayama is about 6.6 seconds back as we go to a quarter distance completed. We're about to complete the 12th lap, actually. So here's Damon Hill as he jills away with Martin Donnelly, the Eurobrun driver, looking to bow out of the team on a high, and he is driving very well indeed. It's the last time you'll see the Woolworths Eurobrun as the team folds at the end of this race, rather sadly, but Martin Donnelly is looking to send them out in fine style as Mike Thackwell locks up into the hairpin a little bit, or just blends off the brake, I should say, as in front of him is Paul Warwick. And Mark Blundell is leading at the moment ahead of Katayama, Giacomelli, Zanardi and Leto. Then Martini in 6th place. Irvine is 7th. Oh, Thackwell very nearly throws it away. Donnelly is in 8th place behind Eddie Irvine. Then Damon Hill is 9th in the Dallara. 10th is Alan McNish in the Life. 11th is Andrea Chiesa in the Monteverdi. 12th is Christian Fittipaldi's Life. Then 13th is Johnny Herbert in the Dallara. 14th is Michael Andretti. And then we've got Roberto Guerrero. Oh, that's Chiesa. Chiesa has spun it. So let's see what's happened there to the Swiss. He was trying to get away from Christian Fittipaldi. He's come off the turn. And it looks as though he's just cooked the curbs. Oh, yeah, he's lost the car completely. And he's damaged the front wing. So I'm afraid Andrea Chiesa losing the car. We're going to have another look at it because the camera wasn't really focusing in on the moment. So let's see what happened to Chiesa. Just too much power too early. And he's damaged the car. So a big mistake from Andrea Chiesa as he's thrown away a potential top 10 finish there. So the likes of Andretti and Guerrero pass the scene. So do the 2 Porsches. And the Zach Speed as well of Winkelhock. So the field is going through. And Giacomelli locking up there. So now we need to give you the order again because it has changed. Blundell is now 7 seconds ahead of Ukyo Katayama. Bruno Giacomelli 3rd in the Lola. 4th is Zanardi's Osella. 5th is Leto in the Monteverdi. 6th is the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini. 7th is Eddie Irvine in the Real. Then Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun is P8. 9th is Damon Hill in the Converse Dallara. And then in 10th place it is Alan McNish in the Life. His teammate Christian Fittipaldi is 11th. Johnny Herbert is now 12th in the Dallara. 13th is Roberto Guerrero in the AGS Holden, which will be Holden Racing next year. 14th is Michael Andretti in the Reynard ahead of Paul Warwick's Porsche. Then it is Mike Thackwell in the Coloni. Thierry Boutsen in his Porsche after an electrical issue. Andrea Chiesa will come into the pits any moment now and drop to the back of the field, I'm sure, as Volker Weidler has had problems too with a rear wing parting company with the car on the first lap. He's pitted to fix that. And Joe Winkelhock has lost 2 laps after going off earlier on in the race as well. So a very dramatic start to things in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup as far as the title race is concerned. If Katayama stays second and Martini stays sixth, then the Italian wins the race by 1 point. And Mark Blundell is still driving to keep the car at the front end of the field. They want Lego Osella to be in the Grand Prix. At the moment, it's going to be Osella, Coloni and Lola that get through as Katayama gets a little bit impatient there as Andrea Chiesa rejoins. The Japanese driver who will join the Honda team next season as their lead driver along with the other Japanese pilot in the sport, Aguri Suzuki. Chiesa locks up again in front of Katayama. So the Japanese driver will be getting very frustrated sat behind Chiesa, who finally gets out of the way for the Japanese. And Ukyo Katayama gets through, but not that Ukyo Katayama will be particularly calm and happy about it. So let's see if this is going to be an absolutely sensational race run for Mark Blundell. Again, out in front, 10 seconds clear of Ukyo Katayama and just increasing that gap. And Mark Blundell proving once again that he's got what it takes to be here. And that's a problem for Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert has got a water leak in that car. And as a result, there is a lot of smoke billowing out of the car as the engine overheats. So Johnny Herbert, I'm afraid, is out of the pre-qualifying race here at Adelaide. The drivers following get out of the way. But Johnny Herbert is going to bring the car to a stop at the foot of the straight. And that is one of the Dallara team's cars out of the pre-qualifying race. So a big problem for Johnny Herbert and the team, as they will obviously now have to go back to the drawing board and focus on their objectives for 1991. Now, Johnny Herbert is obviously going to stay with the team, but it is game over for him. So a real shame for the British driver as Roberto Guerrero comes into the pit lane in the AGS, which will be known as an AGS car for the last time this weekend before it becomes the Holden Racing Team. An all-Australian outfit. It'll have Wayne Gardner, the motorcycle racing champion, joining the team, along with David Brabham, the legendary Brabham family name continuing then. As there's Chiesa unlapping himself from Ukyo Katayama. This is not going to be giving the Japanese driver any source of comfort at all. And I'm sure that team boss Senna Stoffmehl is going to be very, very irritated about having a lackluster performance from Andrea Chiesa holding up his charge. Team boss Andrew Sampson of the Honda team next year has already said he's very keen to have the reigning Go Bobbit at UK Cup champion in his team for 1991. So, obviously, everybody back home in Japan, where we were last time out, is hoping for that. Martin Donnelly pits. So that's the first scheduled pit stop, really. Oh, and that's a problem. We've got Damon Hill out of the race, and we've got Giacomelli in the wall. So Damon Hill's gone out. Engine failure for Damon Hill. So Damon Hill is out, but there was a big problem for Giacomelli. Let's have a look again. He's lost the back end of the car. And he's lost the rear wing. So I think that's it. I think that's game over for Giacomelli. So Bruno Giacomelli is out of the Australian Grand Prix. He's thrown it away. And that is a disaster for the Italian and the Lola team. They are out of the running for the pre-qualifying race. Oh, and that's Alan McNish has gone into the back of him. Alan McNish, unsighted, has gone into the back of Bruno Giacomelli's car. Absolutely astonishing. As McNish is out, Giacomelli is out. And that is two of the big names from the front end of this field gone. So Giacomelli and McNish now both out of the action. But Alan McNish was completely unsighted. He had no chance to avoid Giacomelli's car. As that's one of the biggest problems on a street circuit like this one, is that if a car crashes in front of you, you've got to be prepared for the unexpected. You don't know what's coming around the next bend. So Zanardi's up to third, Leto is up to fourth, and Martini is up to fifth. That's great news for the Minardi team, because that's one less car they've got to overtake to keep the pressure on Ukyo Katayama and the Coloni team in their quest for the title fight. Now Leto comes into the pits for Monteverdi, but before that scheduled pit stop, Monteverdi were looking good to get into the Grand Prix along with Osella and Coloni. So the Minardi team will be wanting to push in this phase of the race to try and get them ahead of JJ Leto, because that really would help them to move forward even more. As Mark Blundell continues out in front here at Australia on the Adelaide street circuit, and he's having a whale of a time. He's got a few laps before his pit stop. Katayama in the Coloni is coming into the pits this lap, so that just shows you how impressive the Osella package is compared to Coloni at this end of the season. As Martin Donnelly is in traffic, battling away his way past Joe Winkelhock. He gets through as Donnelly continues behind Thackwell. Donnelly having made his pit stop, Thackwell has still yet to do so. But the retirements just keep coming, and now we've only got 16 cars running in the Go Bobbit UK Cup qualifier as Katayama pits from second. We've lost Barilla, Suzuki, Brundle, Tarquini, Fangio the second, Ratzenberger, Herbert, Hill, McNish and Giacomelli. So with Martini in the pits as well, this could be very interesting. So Katayama leaves the pit lane and he should rejoin in 4th place. But where's Leto? He rejoins behind Fittipaldi. Now Fittipaldi still needs to pit in, and Leto goes past the pit. So Martini is going to rejoin behind Andretti, I do believe. Oh, and Paul Warwick had to get on the brakes there to avoid hitting Martini's Minardi on pit exit. That's the other interesting aspect of a street circuit. You've got to be careful for drivers coming out of the pits. So Blundell still leads the way from Zanardi in 2nd place. The two Lego Osellas going a bit further into the race as Thackwell locks his brakes a little bit there and makes a mistake in front of Martin Donnelly. Fair play to the Kiwi. Thackwell is going to take part in his final Grand Prix here. Despite his young age, he's decided he's not really enjoyed his comeback as much as he thought he would. He's basically assisting the Coloni team and then getting himself out of the Grand Prix game completely. It was a good effort for Thackwell to make a comeback, but it hasn't really grown into anything substantial from his point of view, so it's time to end the idea. As Blundell and Zanardi continue to lead the way. Now Fittipaldi is in pit road. Here he is on bang on half distance. Lap 20 of 40, although he technically came into the pits at the end of lap 19. So Fittipaldi will rejoin in a reasonably good position. Oh, that's Katayama! That is Ukyo Katayama! What's happened to the Japanese? Into the first chicane, he's messed up, made the mistake, and Katayama is out! And that means that Pierluigi Martini has won the Go Bobbito UK Cup! Katayama is out! And now Pierluigi Martini cannot be caught! Oh, how dramatic is that for this title fight? And that is the first time all season that Ukyo Katayama has failed to finish in the Go Bobbit UK Cup race. Unbelievable. The one time when he didn't need to push too hard, and he has done exactly that. So Katayama makes a big mistake and throws away his chances in the Go Bobbit UK Cup race. So that's it. Martini has done it. He doesn't even need to finish the race. Martini has won the title of the Go Bobbit UK Cup in the pre-qualifying. Now, the race continues on, but minus Ukyo Katayama. What a shame. So now, Blundell leads his teammate Zanardi by 18 seconds. Irvine in the Real pits in. So that should promote Leto into 4th position in the Monteverde, but he also needs to pit, as does Andretti. So this ultimately gives great news to Minardi, not just because Martini has won the title and already the mechanics are congratulating themselves in the garage. And the party has already started at Minardi. But the team now has a genuine chance. With Andretti due to make his pit stop, the team has a great chance of getting through to the Grand Prix itself. But what an unfortunate incident to end the race for Ukyo Katayama. The first time all season he has failed to finish. And that is disastrous. Oh, Weidler's going slowly. Gearbox problems for Weidler. Oh, and he's been hit off by Chiesa. Chiesa finds him completely unsighted. And so Weidler and Chiesa go out together on the spot. And they are out of the Australian Grand Prix. So Weidler and Chiesa, the last two guys in the race other than Winkelhock, are out here in Australia. So a very dramatic race is continuing as more cars fall off the race circuit. It's brutal here at Adelaide. And there have been discussions of a potential alternative venue for the Australian Grand Prix, although for the atmosphere, the drivers really do love it here at Adelaide, and so do the teams. But it is a brutal circuit, and drivers do make a lot of mistakes in these closing stages of the season. So Mike Thackwell comes into the pits from 8th place. He could score points, actually. And I'm fairly right in assuming that that would be his first points of the season since Phoenix, if he could get them, if he could get the Coloni home in the points. So he started his season very well and all was looking good, and then by the time we got to the French Grand Prix, Thackwell was demoted as Blundell comes into the pits in the Osella. So no problems at all for the British driver out front. He doesn't need to rush this pit stop at all. His teammate still has to make a pit stop, of course. So not a bad stop at all for Blundell and the Lego Osella team. Zanardi will take the lead briefly. So there is Alessandro Zanardi moving into the lead of the Go Bobbit UK Cup qualifier. But he also has to make a pit stop. In fact, he is due in on this lap immediately after. So Mark Blundell in second, but he's not going to stay there for long. There's JJ Leto, and he can go to the end of the race. Andretti is in a long queue of cars led by Martini behind Andretti. And then we've got Donnelly and Irvine, both of whom have pitted, I do believe. Yes, they have. So Martini is going to try and get to the end of this race in 4th position, because if he does, then he is going to go through to the last Grand Prix of the season, as Paul Warwick in the Porsche comes into the pits from P9 as one of the last drivers to do so. Donnelly in trouble. Donnelly in trouble. Well, Donnelly's run wide somewhere and has let Eddie Irvine go by. What happened there? Let's have another look at it. So Donnelly, it seemed like he lost ground initially to Irvine in the Real, and then he had some kind of difficulty getting the car stopped. So I wonder if there is a problem developing for the Eurobrunn. But we now only have 13 cars running in this very brutal race here at Adelaide. Half the field gone just after half distance. We've lost Weidler, Chiesa, Katayama, Giacomelli, McNish, Hill, Herbert, Ratzenberger, Fangio, Tarquini, Brundle, Suzuki and Barilla. And Alessandro Zanardi comes into the pits as one of the last of the big guns to make his scheduled pit stop. So he will drop to second, as Martini has got past Andretti. So Martini has made the move on Michael Andretti at the end of the straight. This is great news for the Italian, who is already confirmed now as the winner of the Go Bobbit UK Cup, because he cannot be caught in terms of the points. Oh, that's Paul Warwick. What's happened to Paul Warwick in the Porsche? Oh, gearbox failure. Gearbox failure for Warwick, and it's shunted him into the wall. Goodness me, that's a nasty way for Paul Warwick's season at the Porsche Grand Prix team to end, and he'll be a test driver, of course, next year. So a very tough way for the Porsche team's youngster to end his season. But JJ Leto is now in second. He's managed to jump Alessandro Zanardi. So not great news for the Osella, but great news for the Monteverdi team and for JJ Leto, because they are now into second position, with Zanardi trying to bag some more points with another strong result here. But Martini is currently running well. I think Andretti has got a problem. Oh, Andretti has stopped. Andretti has stopped out on the circuit. So what's happened to Andretti? He was in 5th position looking for the pits. Martini's had a lock up in front of him. Oh, gearbox failure. Gearbox failure right in front of Eddie Irvine. So Andretti, the gearbox, has a bag full of neutrals now. And that's a real problem for the American, who ends his season with Reynard. And that's the last we'll see of the Reynard team in dairy milk colours before they sign up with their new sponsors next year, the McDonald's brand name. So JJ Leto in second place, chasing after Mark Blundell, who sets the new fastest lap, a 1:14.4. That is a fast lap from the Lego Osella. And Donnelly trying a late move on Fittipaldi. Incredibly, we've only got 11 cars left running in the Go Bobbit UK Cup finale, but then Adelaide does have its habit of taking a big amount of drivers out of a race. And certainly in the pre-qualifying race, there doesn't look like there's going to be many drivers coming home. So Mark Blundell continues on his way. And this is going to be quite an exciting challenge for the British driver. So he continues on his way out in front. 17.2 seconds ahead of JJ Leto. Zanardi is there in third. And crucially, in 4th place, it is currently the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini. The sole surviving Minardi after Martin Brundle's early exit. But Martini is already confirmed as the Go Bobbit UK Cup title winner, with Katayama A very uncharacteristic retirement from the Japanese driver who has finished every single race in the Go Bobbitt UK Cup so far this year. But Honda looking very likely to continue good form into 1991. As Zanardi in third position continues to stretch after JJ Leto. So through they come once again. And Zanardi having a great race in third position. Hopefully it's going to stay that way, but Martini is under some pressure now from Eddie Irvine in the Real. I wonder what Martini's going to want to do. He'll want to stay in the Grand Prix. And of course he may or may not be aware of Katayama's retirement. So Martini's just got to keep going. And whatever will be from their point of view. But a fascinating situation here at Adelaide. As Mark Blundell continues to stretch out the gap. And that's Fittipaldi who loses the back end of the car. Manages to get it under control just before Martin Donnelly comes around. So Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun is still giving him massive pressure. 8th place is Roberto Guerrero. 9th is Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche. 10th is Thackwell in the Coloni. And in 11th place, it is Joe Winkelhock in the Zack Speed. Everybody else has failed to make it. That's Martini! Martini has a puncture. Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi has a puncture, so Minardi will not start the last race of the season. But now Martini, with all the pressure off, can return back to the pits. And of course, can savour the moment of victory as he is the winner of the Go Bobby.UK Cup in pre-qualifying. So it's goodbye to Pierluigi Martini for 1990. We'll see him again. Oh, and Leto's out. Leto is out of the race. What's going on? Goodness me, Pierluigi Leto had a crash. He crashed in the first chicane. So Leto did the same thing that we saw Brundle and Katayama do. So Leto is out. Goodness me. A very dramatic Go Bobbitt UK Cup race. Obviously, they can only have a certain amount of drivers scoring points. And it's not going to be 10 of them. Now, there is going to be a rule change in the Go Bobbitt UK Cup next year that only the top 6 drivers will score points in the Go Bobbitt UK Cup, because obviously it's only for competitors trying to get into the Grand Prix. So they're not going to follow the same point scoring system as Grand Prix racing anymore. And it will just be the top 6 drivers that will score points for the Go Bobbitt UK Cup. And it will be on a system of 10, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's only in the Go Bobbitt UK Cup. So the main Grand Prix will still have points scored for the top 10 teams. But what an astonishing situation it is for the competitors here, as a very tough race comes to an end for Leto and for Martini. Both of them are out, and that will promote Joe Winkelhock up into 9th position. Still set for a couple of points, and this is the thing in this race: as long as you can keep the car going, you may as well try to, because you have no idea what's coming. And the Life team, which is set to bow out of the sport at the end of this race. And the team boss, Tom Cairns, will take over the reins at the Lola team, which is separating from LaRousse next season after a big fallout between the two parties. So Lola will run their own works entity, and this man, Christian Fittipaldi, will move on to the Lamborghini squad, which is coming in for 1991, run by the Modena Group. But this is an absolutely fabulous opportunity for the competitors as the race continues on here for Christian Fittipaldi to get a 4th place finish. Eddie Irvine, though, in the Real, looks like he's going to qualify for a Grand Prix, and the Life might do as well. So it looks as though it's going to be Osella, Real, and Life that get through to the Grand Prix. There's Roberto Guerrero being overtaken by Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche. Boutsen is going to try and make the bid into the final hairpin, which he does. Into the mid part of the course, sorry, the hairpin there. So Boutsen is up into 6th place, and he's got time to close up on the likes of Donnelly and Fittipaldi. So he's going to do his best, and the Australian fans really have loved seeing that Holden doing a grand job. And if Guerrero just finishes the race, they'll score points for the first time in Holden colours, which will set them up very nicely indeed for next year. So the Holden racing outfit should be a fabulous story in 1991, as the Australian team is trying to make a big impact next season. But Mark Blundell having a stellar effort at the start of the year as they come through once again. So Blundell comes through the chicane, up through turn 3 and on towards the Jones complex, named after Alan Jones, of course. And they'll come through to Getterville Terrace once again. Here's Zanardi, second place in the second of the Ocellas. So a very good start to proceedings for the team. And they've got every reason to be very comfortable with the way things have progressed and transpired. But the Lego Ocella team looking very comfortable in first and second place. Irvine in the Real in third. Fittipaldi is fourth in the Life. Fifth is Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun. Sixth place is Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche. Seventh place is Roberto Guerrero in the AGS. Eighth is Mike Thackwell in the Coloni. 2 laps down, and in ninth is Joe Winkelhock, and that is it. Nobody else is running on lap 30 of 40. Could be a brutal Grand Prix later. And obviously, as we know from the Japanese Grand Prix, if drivers don't complete the full race distance, then they don't score points, even if they are 10th of the 10 remaining runners. Now, here's Thierry Boutsen. A bit of a lock-up for the Belgian as he sets off after Martin Donnelly. He wants to close in on him, because if he can get close enough to Fittipaldi and Donnelly, he's got a good chance of putting the Porsche team into the Grand Prix. And they did so last time out, of course, in Japan. But Thierry Boutsen, with the electrical problems of earlier on, has not been helped. But if there were no electrical problems at that Porsche in the early phase of the race, then Boutsen would be running in third position at this point. And that's Irvine! Irvine loses it in the Real. Oh dear. So Irvine makes a big mistake. Well, that's one less car for Boutsen to catch and pass, because Irvine has got to try and extricate himself from the gravel trap as Boutsen goes by into P5. And that puts Fittipaldi into third, Donnelly into fourth, Boutsen is up to fifth, Guerrero is up to sixth, and Thackwell is up to seventh. But Irvine's got to let Winkelhock unlap himself. And now Irvine can carry on. Oh no, wait, there's Blundell going through again. So now Irvine is a lap down in the Real. He's looking forward to getting his hands on a Jordan next season. Well, that's a novel way of reversing out of the race. Oh, and that's Roberto Guerrero. Guerrero is out in the Holden. Out of sixth position, gearbox failure. Gearbox failure for Roberto Guerrero. So Irvine is down the order and Guerrero is out. He will not score points, I don't believe. Because obviously you have to finish a certain amount of laps to be classified as a finisher. And Guerrero is not going to be allowed to do that. So Irvine regains 7th place. Winkelhock now moves up to 8th position. So Boutsen is now just 1 place away from promotion to the Grand Prix. This man, Christian Fittipaldi, is running in 3rd. No wonder the Lamborghini Works team have snapped him up for next year, because they genuinely feel that he is a great star of the future and could be something pretty special. Alessandro Zanardi doing a grand job. Of course, the Lamborghini engines were supposed to be in the back of the Lotus team for 1990, but at a last-minute decision, they went for Renault, thanks to a little bit of help from Williams, who dropped them, and Lotus went straight in and grabbed the Renault engine supply off them. And now they will be the factory outfit for Renault in 1991. Zanardi running in 2nd place. Fittipaldi is 3rd, Donnelly is 4th, and Boutsen is 5th. So Boutsen in the Porsche is 1 place away from qualification, with Zanardi, Fittipaldi and Donnelly all set to join Marc Blundell in the Grand Prix, because it's Ocella, Life and Eurobrun at the moment who are going through. Porsche will be ruining that electrical issue earlier on, because without that, they would definitely be going through to the Grand Prix, because they would have been they were ahead of Fittipaldi and Donnelly at the time of their earlier problems. So Blundell's still going, and Zanardi still strong in 2nd place, as the Ocella continues its late season form. They hadn't won a race until Japan, and now it looks as though they're going to win 2 on the trot, as Fittipaldi runs in 3rd position, just a few seconds ahead of Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun. So Fittipaldi going strong. Donnelly in the Eurobrun is 4th. Boutsen in the Porsche is 5th. Thackwell in the Coloni is 6th. Irvine is 7th. And Winkelhock is 8th. And those are the only cars still running in the Go Bobbida UK Cup pre-qualifier. What a dramatic final race of the year for the pre-qualifiers, as Zanardi continues in 2nd place in his Lego Ocella. Almost 20 seconds, in fact 25 seconds very nearly clear of Christian Fittipaldi, with Martin Donnelly still lapping quite well compared to the ailing Porsche of Thierry Boutsen. And this will be the last time we see a works Porsche in Formula 1 for a while as a manufacturer of the chassis as well as the engine. Although, of course, Porsche will move to Williams and Benetton as an engine supplier in 1991. Williams with factory engines, Benetton with customer engines. So Martin Donnelly locking up at the end of the hairpin. Perhaps he's feeling the heat a little bit from Thierry Boutsen behind, as Fittipaldi continues to pull away from him. And Donnelly is losing a lot of time to the Brazilian, as Boutsen continues to push on with the hope that he can make up as much time as possible. There are 7 laps remaining here on this very short but very exciting and tight, twisty street circuit of Adelaide in Australia. A fabulous race circuit this, and with so many incredible challenges to it, as Marc Blundell goes into the first chicane. And he's one of the few drivers that has not really put a wheel wrong in this race. He's had to be careful to avoid back markers, but Blundell looks more than ready to get into a Benetton in 1991 and show the world what he can do. Zanardi, his teammate, is 23 seconds back with 6 laps to go. Marc Blundell totally dominating in this pre-qualifying race and looking to have some points if he can score them in the Australian Grand Prix itself as well. So we'll have to see what happens. But it's an absolutely thrilling situation for the Lego Acela team, who have been very confident and very calm throughout. So Marc Blundell leads Alessandro Zanardi. Christian Fittipaldi is third from Martin Donnelly and Thierry Boutsen. Then it is Mike Thackwell and Eddie Irvine in 7th from Joe Winkelhock. And that's it. There are no other race cars on the road. They're all out other than that. So a very tough race here, and I have a feeling that the Grand Prix itself is going to be just as brutal, with the attrition rate just as high for the last race of the season. We could see a very dramatic Australian Grand Prix, which has a 5-way championship showdown between Mika Hakkinen, Riccardo Patrese, Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger and Derek Warwick, with only 16 points between the 5 drivers and only 6 points between the top 4. So it's definitely going to be a thrilling final race of the 1990 season. But with 5 laps to go for Marc Blundell, all he has to do is just keep the car facing in the right direction for these last 4.5 laps. And the job is done for Lego Acela to get into the last Grand Prix of the 1990 season. There's some rumours going around that the New Zealand Grand Prix, which is touted as a non-championship race, will actually become the first race of the 1991 calendar year. Although, of course, it will remain a non-championship event. And it's going to, apparently, it's going to do a lot of work to inspire the teams in terms of getting them a little bit closer to their marks. But apparently, it's only going to be a race for the development drivers of each team. The test and development drivers will be invited to compete for each team, not the full-time race drivers. So that's going to be interesting. It'll be a non-championship race. We'll see the teams of 1991 for the first time, but it will be the test and development drivers that go to race for them, not the full works drivers. So there is Zanardi, battling his way around the course and into the first corner. No problems at all for Zanardi today. He's had every single problem under the sun over the course of this very dramatic 1990 season. But he finally scored points last time out at Suzuka when he brought the car home in 7th place. So he would dearly love to make sure it is 2nd place this time, as Marc Blundell continues to lead, looking for another victory. So we could see a very dramatic end to the season from their point of view. And we now have some truly sensational races to come in 1991, knowing that there's quite a few teams that can really make a bit of a scream of things in 1991. So Fittipaldi is still a handful of seconds ahead of Donnelly. Boutsen is not able to catch Donnelly. I wonder if that electrical issue has meant that the car is a little fragile now. Boutsen doesn't want to push it. He just wants to bring the car home, because it's valuable data, of course, heading into next season. And obviously the New Zealand Grand Prix in Pukeko is coming up, so Porsche want to do a lot of work on their engine, ready for that, so it gives us a bit of an indication as to who is where and who is doing what for the upcoming 1991 season. But Christian Fittipaldi is on course for third position, and that will be a brilliant result for the Brazilian. And I'm fairly sure that's going to be his best result of the season. Second position he also got in Brazil. So a third position here at Australia is going to be a very impressive achievement. It's not quite going to be his best result, obviously, because that was second in Brazil. But the Brazilian, the nephew of Emerson Fittipaldi, will be the team leader at Lamborghini next season. So we'll see how that team manages to progress in Formula One. Apparently they're getting an awful lot of funding from Adidas and various other partners next season. So we're going to see a very dramatic looking Lamborghini car next year. A very stylish one, I'm told. Oh, and that's Thierry Boutsen. He just rides the curb like a skateboarder on that part of the course. So he was fortunate there to keep the car on the straight and narrow. But a top 5 finish, despite the problems, is not going to be a bad end to the year for Porsche at all. And they can go into next season full of confidence. They've done a lot of development work in this second half of the season. The car has been a lot stronger. So we should see an awful lot of incredible development and increased pace of the exploration of the Porsche engine in 1991. And that's definitely got to keep Williams and Benetton very happy. And it's not as if the last Porsche project in Formula One prior to this one wasn't successful, because it was. A very successful time indeed for the TAG engine in Formula 1 in 1984. They won a title. They did so again in 85 and 86. So obviously a very successful situation for Porsche the last time they were involved. But we're going to see more great times from them, I'm sure. So the battle is still going strong. An absolutely sensational battle. We're going to see a very nice closing race, closing lap, I should say, for the team. As they come through in fascinating and fine style, it will be a truly magnificent end to the year for Mark Blundell, who is there lapping the Coloni of Mike Thackwell, who will be the 6th of only 8 runners left at the flag. But Mark Blundell and the Lego Acela team are going to end strong and end on a high after a truly sensational second half to the year. Here comes Mark Blundell for the second race in a row. He is going to be triumphant after a sensational end to the year. No wonder Benetton have snapped him up for 1991. Mark Blundell wins at Adelaide in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup pre-qualifying race. And so Acela will go through to the Australian Grand Prix. And obviously with Zanardi coming home in second, that will more than confirm it. But here is Christian Fittipaldi in the life, and he can be very delighted with their end to the season. They will start their last ever Grand Prix in the Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide. So they've got plenty to smile about as they come home. And this will only be the second time all season that they will have started a Grand Prix. So it is a big moment at the end of the season and proof of the great development work that Tom Cairns and the team have been doing. But it will be their second start in a Grand Prix. A fantastic end to the year for Christian Fittipaldi. He comes through in fine style, finishes in third position. A great result. And Martin Donnelly will put the Eurobrunn on the starting grid for the second time as well. Excellent stuff. A brilliant end to the season for the team. And that is it. The race is over, and it's Mark Blundell who will take the spoils here in Adelaide. It's a 1-2 for Lego Acela. They go through to the Grand Prix with Life and Eurobrunn in the race as well. Fittipaldi ahead of Donnelly. Then Boutsen in the Porsche. Thackwell in the Coloni. Eddie Irvine recovers to 7th in the Real. They could have gone through. And then the Zach Speed of Joe Winkelhock 3 laps adrift after his earlier off. Nobody else is classified as a finisher. Guerrero with a gearbox failure. Leto after crashing out. Martini with a puncture. But he is crowned the Go Bobbit UK Cup title winner. Michael Andretti, Paul Warwick and Volker Weidler all had gearbox failure. With Chiesa going into the back of the Real. Then Katayama crashing out, Giacomelli and Alan McNish likewise. Damon Hill with a failed engine, Herbert with a water leak, an oil leak at Ratzenberger's Reynard. then crashes for Fangio the second, Brundle, Suzuki and Barilla, with a gearbox failure for Gabriele Tarquini. The fastest lap of the race, who else but Mark Blundell? He's ended the season in perfect fashion. Pole position, fastest lap, and the race victory. So congratulations to Pierluigi Martini. He is the Go Bobbit UK Cup title winner for 1990, and he will return at Minardi next season to continue that defence of his title. But into the Australian Grand Prix, the title decider for 1990, we go next with Osella, Life and Eurobrun on the starting grid. Don't go away, the race action will be right around the bend.